back while you can, it's horrible.
Snares and evil spirits, horrible sounds of suffering.
No one could survive it, turn back.
Oh, come on, guys, the movie isn't that bad.
Anywho, Christian awakes to a load of yelling as everyone runs in terror and has to look at what the commotion's about. I'd personally just go back to bed, as it's clearly just the people who played Fallout 76's beta fleeing for their lives. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's nothing as bad as that, it's just the valley of death they're running from.
Oh, the shadow of the valley of belching and vomiting.
Oh, you don't even know. You don't even know what you are doing. Where are you going, God?
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it!
Two creatures that don't feature in the shadow of the Valley of Death are Pope and Pagan. These two are actually representative of pagan worship and the Pope of the Catholic Church. I'm guessing it doesn't really hold as much relevancy now, as paganism died out centuries ago and the Catholic Church is no longer the threat that it once was.
I do mention it as it amuses me to no end how some religions depict the Pope. The World Mission Society of God, for example, depicts him as the Little Horn in the Book of Daniel, who is often seen as the Antichrist in most other religious interpretations of the Book of Daniel. To them, the Pope and the Antichrist are literally one and the same.
In the 1400s, for example, the Pope was like the equivalent of a really big mob boss, whereas now he's pretty much a figurehead for a religion, so yeah, I don't really think many people would get his cameo in this little story. I really like this shot because you can see how Christian has been affected by his experience in the valley. You can quite clearly tell that the phantoms have got to him, and while he may leave them, they will never leave him. I guess it goes to show just how—
Oh, fuck that noise, he spotted a chick.
Walk with you?
I could not wait for you, but I will gladly walk with you if you catch up.
Why can't she wait for him? I mean, it's not time sensitive, this quest. Oh, but Gio, it's allegory for that. I don't care, okay? That doesn't make her not a bitch. In this context, Faithful is a bitch who can't wait for anyone because she's an impatient cow.
Huh. What? Help!
Okay, I will give him that. The Christian-looking annoyed face does make this scene fantastic.
My name is Christian.
Hi, my name is Faithful. Are you also going to the Celestial City?
Yes, I am. And it will be good to have some company on the way there.
Well, then you're in luck. Here's another fellow.
Oh, hello! Mind if I walk with you? I'm a good companion to walk with, as I enjoy talking about things that are good and righteous.
Well, how wonderful.
Oh no, help, my eyes have been possessed by a demon. Sorry, can't stop, gotta go fast. I'm burning. Can't stop.
You see, her wonky eyes are allegory for her being a bitch.
Anyhow, if there's one thing that I find funnier than her stupid eyes, it's Christian's stupid face. In fact, this is my favourite frame in the movie right here.
Well, it is a most wonderful thing to talk about religion and the Bible and God. It is very meaningful to talk about those things.
Well, it is very good to talk about the way those things are meaningful in our lives.
Well, that's what I said. It's meaningful to talk about those things.
What a wonderful traveling companion we have found.
Don't be fooled by him. His name is Talkative. I know him better than he knows himself.
How? Have you met before?
Oh, what am I saying? He's probably read a dictionary at some point in his life and knows what's coming up.
His religion is in his mouth, not in his heart. Ask him how the grace of God has changed his life.
So these two decided to show this poor guy up and make him look like an ass. Such lovely people.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot what people were for a second there.
So next they go to the Vanity Fair, where they're offered all kinds of shit, from stuff to popularity. These two jackasses, however, get bothered when they aren't buying anything. You know, even if they just don't want to buy what's on offer, or are just literally passing through without wanting to buy anything at all. Are you telling me that nobody ever just walks through this area without buying things? What if they don't have money to buy anything? What if they don't have any interest in what's on display here? Surely a better businessman will be like, oh, maybe I should get some new inventory, but no. Then this bald bastard gets pissed about it and has them both arrested for daring not to buy his crap.
It's interesting to note that this adaptation cut out a part of Faithful's storyline.
In the book, and oddly enough the video game adaptation of this very movie, Faithful is a man. In truth, I do think changing Faith's gender works a bit better, as there was nothing remarkable about Faith's character in the game, whereas in the movie she stands out a lot better. Her young blonde girl with a flower in her hair look makes her look a bit more pure, whereas her male counterpart in the game looks exactly the same as everyone else.
So, originally in the book she was a man, and Adam I actually tries to tempt Faithful with promise of his daughters, and they stay overnight with Adam I as his daughters try and seduce Faithful, and Moses actually goes out of his way to try and punish Faithful for this. I'm guessing they cut this because it adds very little to the overall story, and, well, Faithful's a woman now, so I guess changing them to sons wouldn't make sense.
So the two of them are presented to Lord Hategood. Just no.
You know, I never thought I'd find a judge worse than the one from Dingo Pictures' Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I actually really want that horrible voice back again.
So they did a sensible thing and banished them, right? Nopers. Instead, they keep them prisoner, keeping their dangerous ideas in the town even longer, and then have them executed.
Yes, it's true. 2 people came through yesterday and didn't buy a thing. They were offered titles, glory, wealth, houses, properties, crowns, jewels, and all sorts of things. They walked by as though none of those things mattered. Other people took notice of that and began to question the value of those things as well. The whole fair was in an uproar.
See, even Christian thinks this is fucking stupid.
So, they put them in the dungeon? But why? Did they do something wrong? They disrupted the peace and upset the fair. How? All they did was pass through. They didn't say an unkind word to anybody. That's not the point. Their misguided beliefs are dangerous. But how? If people want to leave the fair and follow them, then they should be able to. Who are you to... Beelzebub will not tolerate this kind of talk.
What kind of gossipers are these? Oh, but Gio, don't you know? They're allegory for...
Anyway, they decide to shout out their entire thinking process in front of the prisoners and come to the conclusion that the best thing that they could do in this situation is burn Faithful alive.
Faithful. Faithful. Wait. No. Faithful. Wait, no. No, wait. No.
Anyway, Christian manages to break free, because these shackles suck or something. Allegory, I don't know. He gets out just in time to see her crispy remains.
You know, I do keep thinking, imagine if this was the other way around.
Ah! Faithful! Help! I'm burning! Sorry, can't stop. Ah, my eyes! They're melting! My eyes are melting! And then Faithful flies away with Jesus into the clouds.
So wait a minute, if you die you get an express ticket to the afterlife? Jeez, no wonder Christians have such a hate boner against suicide.
So this jackass, Hopeful, turns up and he's basically Faithful too. Though I think he's Indian or something, so maybe that counts for something.
Well, hello. I'm on my way to the Celestial City. Sorry, I can tell you would rather be left in peace. I have come from Vanity Fair.
Oh, I see, you're miserable. Well, it would take a real jackass to keep talking to you like a... Oh, by the way, my favourite metal band is Nickelback. What's yours?
You know, Scott's weakness is introducing characters, because you find yourself really disliking a lot of them based on their first impression in the story. In the game, he is at least less of an ass and gives Christian a chance to explain what happened and why he's so sad. But in this adaptation, he comes across as an insensitive jerk.
Which really makes him stand out from the other characters, I guess.
I can tell you would rather be left in peace. I have come from Vanity Fair. You came from there as well, did you not? Okay, well, I'll leave you alone then. My name is Hopeful, by the way.
Oh my god, he does this twice! Christian, just run your fucking sword through him and be done. He even shows that he's aware that Christian is in mourning, and yes, he does eventually prove a little bit helpful, but it took him so long to realise that I don't care. Just tell him to fuck off, please. So anyway, these jackasses get themselves lost and wind up on the wrong path, because diverting from the main path worked so well for those other two jackasses, so it's gotta work for them, right? Oh, wait, no, they get kidnapped by this goblin arsehole. He looks quite different in the game, admittedly. So this guy is the Giant Despair, who owns the Doubting Castle.
Who's the brand new evil in your town?
Shadow of doubt.
Who's the baddest bad guy all around?
Shadow of doubt.
Who's got the plan to take you down?
Shadow of doubt.
Who's both the verb and the noun?
Shadow of doubt.
So we learn that this guy is actually a sort of jailer demon who forces his doubts onto Christians. He basically is Shadow of Doubt, and I think he is actually meant to be the allegorical side of this story that represents a Christian's urge to commit suicide and give up on faith. As in the game, a lot of people who are suffered at the hands of this guy do end up going down that path.
The days are blistering hot and the nights are painfully cold. You will feel the effects of this place more and more as each day goes by without food or water. See you in a few days.
Christian, don't worry. We will get out of here, I'm sure of it. The Lord will provide a way.
It seems as well this adaptation cuts out the Silvermine side plot, where a character actually eggs both Christian and Hopeful on to try and dig into a silver mine to become rich. I can see why this was cut for two reasons. The first being that we're in the last 10 minutes of the movie now, and B, how would they fall for this after the Armour of God stage? This seems more like a plotline suited for Christian way before that, back when he had his burden on his back, and could have been told, hey, well, you don't have to go on this journey, you could just be super rich instead. Regardless, I'm really glad they cut it out. Interestingly enough, you can completely just avoid and walk past it in the video game, which I can't help but find funny.
Another character who doesn't feature in this adaptation is the Giantess Diffidence, who is Despair's wife. though she plays a much bigger part in the second story of the Pilgrim's Progress.
Yeah, there are two parts to this story, but this movie really only covers the first part. Mainly because I think the second part is just kind of a rehash of the first, starring a different character. From what I can tell, Scott never actually took up the mantle of making the second part.
And he resides himself to death needlessly almost right away. Actually, he tries to do that, but then a shock here reminds him that he can just pull a key out of his ass, and so he does so, and escapes.
There, I saved you about 5 minutes by telling you that.
Then they kill the giant, who wasn't supposed to die until the second part, and they make it to the Celestial City. Yay! Oh wait, actually no, they're at the bit before where they get to live out their days before passing over to the River of Death, and then they get to the Celestial City. Sorry to get your hopes up. However, there they encounter the evil atheist who has come along with his
differing beliefs.
Here's something that's done really subtle and well. The atheist character. He's not a fucking caricature, at least.
Again, this thing being about as subtle as a clown with his cock out really does bite it in the arse, because this guy says...
Direction. Oh, really? My name is Atheist. I once thought like you. I searched for the Celestial City as well, and let me assure you, no such place exists on this earth.
You must look beyond what you can see. The kingdom of heaven lies in the next world.
You know, I met a man named Ignorance on my journey. He had a very interesting point about your religion. He said that it's silly to think that faith in Christ will get you to heaven, because one could simply say that they believe, continue to live a wicked lifestyle, and still get into heaven.
Really? You meet a guy called Ignorance, and you think, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Fucking idiot.
In the book, Ignorance actually is encountered, and he's also encountered in the video game. He tries to get into the Celestial City, but he decides to do the smart thing and take the ferry over the River of Death, and thus burns in hell forever.
Oh, but please, keep telling me how bad Atheist is.
Real works on its own. A real faith heals a wicked lifestyle, and that will shine through in a true believer. Besides, God can see into the hearts of people. Do you think that God can be tricked? Someone may live their entire life acting out a religion through works of routine and ritual, then be turned away at the gates of heaven. God knows who his children are.
Fools.
You know, I find it kind of funny because if anybody watched my religious video I did about 2 years ago now, you'll know that I actually became an atheist, not because of people like the atheist character in this movie, but because of characters like Christian and Faithful and Hopeful. Believe it or not, those jagoffs are actually the kind of people that put me off religion completely. In fact, everything that happens to Christian in this movie, I feel is my experience with religion, but just reversed. So that I got a load of shit for not buying into somebody else's crap.
I mean, when you think of someone burning someone else at the stake, for example, because of what they believe, where does that make you cast your mind to? Oh yeah, witch trials. Who did those? And also, when you look down on someone for their beliefs, who again does that make you think of? The jackasses in this movie.
Seriously, this story's shit morals can kiss my arse.
Alright, fuck this, let's wrap this up. So the last thing they gotta do is cross this river that we saw in the opening.
Oh gee, I wonder if they make it. We don't need to see this, Skip.
So Christian makes it to the Celestial City, reunites with Faithful, and whatever these monsters are, and they all live happily ever after. Or something. Until Jesus does a killing joke and possibly strangles him to death. The end. Actually, it ends with the opening of the second part, where Christiana gets his suicide note and is convinced by it to go on a journey with her friends and family to follow her nutjob husband into the afterlife.
So this was a pretty fun film.
Yeah, I do have my problems with the source material, but this actual animation is pretty faithful in its adaptation, and it's brief enough that it doesn't get old. It kind of reminds me of M. Dickey's stuff in a lot of ways. It's not great, but you can tell that the hearts of the creators are in it, and I can't really fault them for that. Yeah, the animation isn't perfect by any means, and despite what I said at the beginning whilst editing over it, I have noticed a couple more mistakes, but it's still nowhere near the magnitude of horrors that I've seen elsewhere. While I don't think this movie adaptation is as good as the video game adaptation, well, I still think that it's a decent effort. At least you can join me now for the video game adaptation, which is, it's a whole different bag.
Of course, as well, we actually got to see what the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy's imagines when he sees biblical beasts, and I actually think that's a pretty cool selling point for this movie. But you haven't seen anything yet, as the game goes a lot deeper into this aspect, so join me next time when we actually look at that instead. It's a bit more fun.
Don't worry, I know right where I'm going. This way, whoa!